Hi, this video is for anyone who's just getting started in using Parish Online and haven't got a clue where to start. So what we're going to do is we're going to run through some of the basics of the software to get you up and running using it effectively. I'm going to block this up into little sections so you can use the YouTube slider to go to different chapters along this video if you want to skip through to something in particular. Okay, so when you log in, you'll be presented with a map. That's a good start. And you will also have your parish boundary shown in blue. Now you'll notice that the surrounding area of your parish will be slightly faded out. That's just a map mask that we have that focuses on your parish area. Now you can turn that off. To do that, there's a little toggle at the bottom here. And you can toggle it back on. And you can also choose the fading type around your area. It's purely cosmetic and it's actually quite nice for when you come to do printouts, but we'll leave it switched off for now. Now to navigate the map, it will work very similar to how you'll have experienced other mapping software like Google Maps or Apple Maps on your phone or on a computer. So to pan the map, you can just click and drag. And to zoom in, I can use the plus and minus buttons here. Or what I tend to do is I use the scroll wheel on my mouse. And that will zoom in wherever your mouse is pointing. So that allows you to get zoomed into the area you want really quickly. And you'll notice that the background mapping updates to the most suitable scale of mapping depending on how far you've zoomed in. Okay. Now on the left hand side you'll see a series of collections. So this is our layer control and this allows you to change the information that's on the map. So we have two types of collections. We have these green ones here which are your base maps or background maps. These are usually switched on. You'd only have one of these, maybe two switched on at a time, and this gives you the context of where you are. So if I expand this Ordnance Survey one, you can see that I've got the premium standard style switched on. If you're just getting started, I would leave it on that one, but there are other base maps to explore, such as aerial photography and different styles of Ordnance Survey mapping. Okay, and all of these grey or beige collections here are layers that sit on top of that base map. So again, all of these are expandable. I can just click on one and it shows me the actual map layers inside that collection. Now we create collections based on themes of information or particular suppliers of information. Now the first thing I'd recommend you do when you start using Parish Online is just to have a look through these layers. There are hundreds available and it means that when you come to use Parish Online for your day-to-day work, you'll have in the back of your mind the layers that are available that might be useful for you. I'm just going to pick out a few that I think are particularly useful and are some of our most popular layers. The first one is under addresses, so let's expand that. And we've got a layer called address space plus points. All you need to know is that's basically addresses. So to switch on that layer, I'm just going to click it. It loads, and when it's loaded, it will show a little tick alongside that layer. Let's zoom in a bit and see this in a bit more detail. So these are points on top of every single addressable property in the country. And this is available to you through the PSGA license. Now these aren't just points on the map, they have information stored within them. And to find that information, all I do is do a single click on the map, and then in the left-hand panel, the software asks me what I've clicked on. Now it might be obvious that I clicked on an address, but actually I clicked within the parish boundary as well, so it's highlighted that as well. So I'm going to clarify that I want to look at the address. It puts a halo around the address in question just to make sure I've got the right one, and it gives you all the information about that address. Now these little icons that pop up here, these are copy to clipboard, so I can copy that and paste it somewhere else. And when I've finished interrogating that point, I can click the little close button here, and it takes me back to the layer control. Okay, so address is really useful. Let's close that collection. Next on the list is HM Land Registry. So there's a layer called cadastral parcels. Now this puts a boundary around every freehold property extent. So this doesn't give you the title deeds or the name of the person who owns it, but it gives you an indication of where the property boundaries sit. Now this might be particularly useful if you're doing a bit of investigation in who owns what. It's especially useful in rural areas where there's no exact boundaries on particular fields or areas of land. Here's a good example here. Sometimes I like to toggle the layer off and toggle it back on just to see things in context. And you can also click on this little cog. So you'll notice that when I hover over the layer, it gives me a little cog icon. If I click on that, it gives me a menu for that layer, basically everything I can do with that layer. And one of the options you'll have is this opacity slider. So I can slide this down to completely transparent and then back up again. So you can do this on any of the layers to fine-tune the map to how you want to view it. And again, this layer is clickable. And here it gives you an ID and it gives you a link off to the Land Registry website. So if you are going to find the title deeds for this property, then you can click on this link and paste in the ID that I just copied. Now this means that when you come to find out the property deeds, especially in rural areas, you're going to be confident that this is the correct one that you're paying your £3 for. Okay, let's close that tab and go back to Parish Online and close that layer panel. Okay, some more useful data sets in here. Let's expand Environment Agency flooding, and we've got flood map zone 2 and 3. Let's zoom out and see where that extent is. Now there's actually none in my parish area, but I can see beyond my parish. Now there's actually no limit to where you can zoom to on Parish Online, but obviously this tool is focused on managing your local area. If I do zoom off somewhere weird and wonderful, I can always quickly get back by clicking the home button here. And just to help you, when you hover over these layers, it comes up with a little description of them. So it gives you a little bit more information about what this layer means. Okay, let's switch these two off. Now there are, like I said, lots of other layers in here. Go and have a look around and see what's available. Now the first thing that people tend to want to do when they log into Parish Online is make a map. Now we've made this really easy for you. So there's everything you need the first time you log into Parish Online. There's no additional configuration. So if I was to go and plot some benches, for example, I can go and do that. I would look under the Assets and Maintenance collection. And you can see I've got lots of different themes of layers that I can add to. These are all editable. So let's switch on benches. And you can see here some I've made earlier, but your layer might be blank to start off with. That's fine. And then let's zoom in to an area. Now to add to this map, I'm going to hover over the tick that exposes this little cog icon, which we call the mini menu. And I'm going to click on Add Feature. So I know this is an editable layer because it's got Add Feature available for me. This takes me into the editing mode for that layer. And I'm simply going to click a point on the map where the bench is. And in the left-hand side, put any information I want about that bench. So you can fill in as much as this as you like or as little. I'm just going to put in what type of bench it is and when it was purchased. And click Save. Okay, and that's added onto the map. Now there's nothing you need to do to save that beyond what you've already done. That's already saved in your account now forever until you come back to edit it or delete it. I'm still in the editing mode, so I can go and add another one if I like. Now I appreciate I'm not putting these in very sensible positions, but this is just a demo. I've got a drop down here for condition and click save. And that's also added into that layer. Now you'll notice that I've put two different types of benches down and it's given them two different icons. That's because we have a function behind the scenes that styles them differently depending on what you put in. Let's just close the feature editor. And actually let's show you what those options are. So under View, you've got a tool called Legend. And what that does is show you a key of all of the different types of icons that you might find on the map. So we've got the parish boundary because we've got that switched on, and we've got all the different types of benches. So this just helps you understand what each icon means. Okay, it's as simple as that. You've created your first map, you've contributed to your online asset register, and you've made a start editing things in Parish Online. Now in Parish Online you can add points like we've just done with benches, we can add line features, and we can add areas. So let's do two more examples where we cover lines and areas. Now if I scroll down this list, we've got walls, gates and fences. That would be a good example for a line layer. Let's click the mini menu and go to add feature. And this time when I do a single click on the map, instead of it committing that point onto the map, it's now following me. So the next point is following my mouse. So lines work slightly differently to individual points. But it means I can do a series of single clicks on the map to represent where this fence is. And then when I get to the end here, I'm going to do a double click, and that completes my shape. So you can see there's nothing following my cursor anymore. So I've drawn where it is. Now let's add in some information about it. So let's put in that it's a fence. And again, I can add in as much or as little information here as I like. And click save. Now let's go and add an area feature. So let's put that under land. So if the parish has land that it owns, it would be really good to plot that into Parish Online. Let's go to add feature again. You'll be getting the hang of this by now. It's all the same kind of things every time. And again, I'm going to do a series of single clicks on the map. And you can see this time it's actually, if I hold down my left click mouse, you can see I can actually move the map as I keep drawing. If I make a mistake, by the way, it's not the end of the world. I can click these undo buttons, and that takes me back a few steps. Also, once you've drawn it, you can go back and edit it. I'll show you that in a second. And for the areas, all I need to do is do a single click back on the first point that I drew to complete that shape. And you'll see the cursor wants to snap back to that first point. And do that last click there. Choose a category. And again, let's click save. And then let's close the feature editor. Okay, so I've added points, lines, and polygons onto the map. If I want to, at any point, remind myself what I've added into these points, I can just simply click on over the area where they are, clarify on the left-hand side, and you can see I've got that there. Also, Parish Online automatically calculates the area and perimeter of each area you draw. So you don't have to go and re-measure this if you want to find out how big it is. It's already there straight away. And you can specify what units you want to see that in. So I can switch this over into hectares. Tells me it's 0.38 hectares. For all editable layers, you can also add attachments. So you can add pictures, PDFs, insurance documents, anything you want associated with that point that helps you. So if a bench was vandalized and you've got a picture of it, you can put that photo into Parish Online. And that stores it on our servers. So it's protected and always available. Now, if I wanted to edit this layer, you can see that maybe I didn't draw this in particularly well. I'm already in the info click mode here, and I've actually got two options. I've got edit and I've got delete. So let me just repeat that just to show you. So I'm going to click on the shape, and then let's go to edit. Now I can edit the information about the object, or I can edit the shape of it as well. So I can move these corners into a new position, and I can also add points anywhere along these perimeters. So if I just drag a point into shape, you can see I'm adding more complexity to it. Now, this is a very strangely shaped woodland, but just go with me on it. And you can see how I can just stretch the shape into the new position that I want. And to update it, I'm just going to click Save again. And that's updated that shape. It's also updated the area and perimeter automatically. Okay, so when you start using Parish Online, you're going to be logging into there with a particular purpose, something you want to do. So I would recommend having a look through the Assets and Maintenance collection, the Planning collection, and the Neighbourhood Planning collection to see if there's layers already in Parish Online ready to go, ready for you to add information into. And if there's not, that's okay. We have the ability for you to add your own layers into Parish Online. So let's say I wanted to plot where there were fly tipping incidents. To do that, I would go up to this top menu and click Create, and then New Layer. I'm going to give it a title. And I'm going to choose what we call geometry type. So this is as we've been doing before with points, lines, or polygons. So you can only have points, lines, or polygons in a layer. You can't have a mix. Now for fly tipping, I just need to know the location of it. So I'm going to put in points, and I can put in my own description as well. And click Next. Now people get confused by this section. Remember when I was adding in those benches and I was able to put in, its name, what type it was, when it was last maintained, all of that extra information. You have the ability to define what those questions are for your layer. So for fly tipping, I might want to give it an incident ID. I could put in what type of fly tipping it was. I could put in a date it was reported. Which I can set for it to prompt me to add a date in rather than just a free text. And perhaps a cost to remediate. Now you can leave that as a text or a number field. Now notice these allowed values here. This can help you save time when you come to add information. So you can predefine options for it. So under type we could have general household waste, asbestos, car, or other. We can always add other ones in later if we want to. But this will help me save time not having to type the word asbestos in every time. Click confirm there. That looks okay to me. I can always come back and add more columns if I want to, but that sets the structure for my layer. And I'm going to click finish. Now when you click finish, the only thing that will happen is a new collection will pop up in the left hand side, and this is your parish layers. So if I expand that, you'll see I've got my new fly tipping layer there. And if I switch that one on, again nothing happens on the map because it's an empty map. But I can go to add feature and I can start drawing on the map here. So again, just a demo account, I'm just going to put one here. You'll see this is my time saving here. It's general household, date is reported, cost, and click save. Let me just put a few in here, a few demo items. Okay, that'll do. I'm just going to switch off my asset layers as well so we can clear up the map a bit, just to make things a bit clearer. Okay, so I've got these 4 points. I can start to plot where there's fly tipping. I might be able to start to see where there's some distributions or common areas where fly tipping occurs. That's really useful. What I can't see is what type of fly tipping incidents these were. And that's because they're all red blobs. Now with your parish layers, you can change the styling. So anything that's pre-built, like the asset register or the neighborhood plan layers, those are fixed styles. But for your own parish layers, you can decide what they are. So if I click the cog again, you see I've got a style option here. And this opens up a full screen page to help you decide what style you want. And I could do something simple, like make them all blue fill circles instead. And click save. And they've all updated. So you don't have to change individual styles for a point, it's managed at a layer level. Let's go back into this. I can also add in a label column. So again, I'm not having to put labels on each individual point. I can say to the software, I want it to use a label from the incident ID. And click save. And now it's automatically showing me those IDs. Okay, but I still can't see the differences in the different types of fly tipping incidents. So let's go back into the styling. Instead of it having one style, I'm going to switch it to a class-based style. So this is going to dynamically change the colors of the points based on what information is stored within it. I'm going to choose it to read the type. And you can see it's pulled through those options that I put in earlier. So now I can make all of these consistent and give general household waste that can stay blue, asbestos can be teal, so that's all the fill colours. Let's make all of the outlines consistent as well. I'm doing this quite fast, but you can see that actually it doesn't take very long to do. And once I'm happy with that, I'm going to click save. Okay, now I can see I've got blue points here, purple one there, teal one there. Let's remind myself of what they mean. There we go, I've got a nice map representing those different types of fly tipping incidents. So with Parish Online, we have these predefined layers that you can add into straight away based on what we know other parishes use the software for. But we are not limiting you to that. You can create your own parish layers for whatever you like. Anything that's to do with the parish you can add in. Right, the next thing I'd like to show you is the table view. Now, our premise is that a map is better than a spreadsheet or a piece of paper. But actually, Parish Online is a spreadsheet as well. So let's go into the table view. And let's go to our fly tipping layer. And you can see all of the information I typed in, including automatically generated information for this layer. And it becomes much more obvious where I've missed things that I should have been putting in. So in this particular incident, I didn't put in when it was reported. So I can click on there and go and add that in, and it automatically saves it. There's no save button here, it's a live save. And I've missed out some IDs, so let's put those in as well. So this just helps you visualize the data in a different way and improve the quality of your information. From here, if you've got lots of information, you can also do some filtering. You can say, right, I want to only look at the incidents that were household waste. And it will go and trim down that sheet to just show those two incidents. And from there, you can click on one and say view on map. and it'll take you to the center of that location. Okay, let's go back into table view. It's still in the same state that I was before. And let's say I wanted to export this as a report. And I can do that by clicking the export button. And it will go and generate a spreadsheet file for me, downloaded onto my computer. Okay, the next thing I'd like to show you is the print tool. Many people like adding their information into Parish Online and using it as a management tool for assets or for their neighbourhood plan projects. But they also want to export maps to share with the public, share on their website, and share with colleagues. And you can do that. So up in the top menu, we have print. And when you click that button, it hides a portion of the map. It grays it out. And so what it's doing is this highlighted area now represents an A4 landscape piece of paper. So now's your opportunity to frame the map. So I can still zoom in and zoom out to get the right size. And I can give the printout a title. I can choose the paper size, I can choose whether it's landscape or portrait, and I can choose whether it's going to be a PDF file or an image file. PDFs are great for emailing to people and having as downloads. Image files are great for including in Word documents, for example. I've got some options here, so I can choose to have a legend. That will take up some paper space, so my map space is now a bit smaller. And I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm just going to click print. It goes away to our server, generates a high quality printout, and then returns a link back to you. Okay, there we go. So let's just click that. It'll open up a new tab, and there's your printout. And from there, depending on your computer, you'll either be able to print it directly or save it to your computer. There'll be some options like that. And this printout also includes all the necessary copyright statements that you need to publish this map. Okay, let's close the print tool. Right, let's close the fly tipping layer. That will always stay in my account, so I don't need to save it or anything like that. It will always be there. And I'd like to show you another tool. So the next tool is under Tools. Now we have a measure tool here. This is for trying to find out the length of something. These are all temporary drawings. Unlike the other drawings we were doing earlier, where they're saved to a layer, these are completely temporary. But might be quite useful if you just want a really rough guide of the area of something. Okay, let's close that. Again, under Tools, we have Isochrones. Now this tool is used for quite a lot of different purposes. We've seen it used for active travel analysis and for catchment area analysis. And what it does is it generates an accurate distance that you can travel in a certain amount of time. So let's do an example. Let's set a 5, 10 and 15 minutes travel time by car. And then I'm just going to do a single click on the map. And you can see it's drawn out that green, yellow and red travel distance there. So this is much more accurate than concentric circles because it's taking into account the infrastructure in the area. I can flip this into walking and see how far you can get by walking and again by cycling. So this has become a very useful tool for parishes, especially as they're looking at catchments for their village halls and their play areas and making sure that people have access to services, but also looking at infrastructure of where it can be improved. So it may well be that you can cycle out to this way, but is it a nice route? So looking at how infrastructure can be improved. Now when you draw these areas, they can be saved to a layer. We've got a special Isochrone layer to save this to, and that means you can then go and print it and distribute as you need. Okay, there's a few other tools, and I'd just like to show you a few more. So up in the top right, we have this address space search. Now, address space is that layer that we looked at earlier, which were just address points on the map. So you can use this to go and search for particular addresses. So I can put in a full address, or I can just put in a street address. or I can just put in a street and it will return all the records for that. Now this is a national search, so it's not just limited to your area. Okay, so hopefully by this point you're starting to get to grips with what Parish Online is and how you can use it yourself. The subscription you have for your council is not just limited to you, so you can add additional users to your account, so you can all share the work on perhaps adding assets and infrastructure in, or you can use it for neighbourhood plan projects, for example, so you can all access the same mapping. So to do that properly, you don't share your username and password. You would go up here into the administration area. So this admin panel gives you a few options. First of all, I can see the layers that I've got available to me, such as this fly tipping layer. That's the one that I created earlier. I can go and edit or manage this as I need to. And I've also got options on how this layer is configured. So I can set it so if I wanted to publish certain elements to the public, then I can do that if I come to use a public map. Let me just save that. But what we've come to the admin panel for is to add new users. So let's click on the users section over here. And you can see I've got a list of users already. Now, you may have inherited your Parish Online account from a previous clerk. I'd recommend having a good spring clean of who's meant to have access and who's not. This is a good opportunity to do that. Or if this is a brand new account, you'll just have one admin user. Adding a new user is really simple. Just click on add. You give them a username and then put in their email address. And you're going to set a type of user. So this can be an admin, just like you. They can be a data manager, which means they can add, edit and delete layers. And they can also edit the contents of layers. Or they can be just an editor, where they can still edit layers, but they can't create new ones. Or they're a read-only, where they can only look at the layers that have been created. Now we want this user just to see the data, but not edit it. So let's set them as a reader. Click Create User, and then say to send them an email for them to set their own password. Okay, and that's done. I would recommend you now talk to this user and say, here's your username, and I'm giving you access to the Parish Online account for whatever you are giving them access for. It's just a way that so that they understand the limitations and the uses of Parish Online as well. Okay, the final thing to show you in this video is the public map. This allows you to create interactive maps for your website. So in true Blue Peter style, here's one I've made earlier. This is one where I've created a public map with the fly tipping layer that I created, so I can show to the public where fly tipping incidents are happening. And again, from this panel, we can go and manage the public maps that we've got available. To get out of the admin panel, I'm just going to click this button up here, which goes back to maps. And this takes me back to the starting position. Okay, hopefully that's been a useful whistle-stop tour of Parish Online. Thank you very much.